All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight we are chatting with Anthony Holter, founder and lead investigator of Xpedition Paranormal, based out of New Hampshire. He is a paranormal author, ordained minister, demonologist, and also a cryptozoologist. So stay tuned. We've got a lots to talk about tonight on Unraveling the Darkness. Good evening, Aaron.
Good evening. How are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. How about you?
I am doing all right.
Getting anxious for our trip next week.
We have a trip. We turned a personal trip that Gene and I were going to take into a team trip, and we're headed out to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Dude, I cannot wait. We have so much stuff planned for when we're out there, and some ghost tours, and got a couple experiments we're going to try, and yeah, it'll be good.
Yep, I am excited to get out there, and I've been out there before, but I'm excited to see y'all out there and check it out. It's such a cool place.
Yeah, like I was born on the East Coast, but I don't think I've ever been to Gettysburg. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And Des has never been out east, so yeah, it'll be good.
Yep.
All right. So tonight we have Anthony Holter from Xpedition Paranormal out of New Hampshire.
Yeah, I think it should be a good night. Usually, no, I don't think we've had a bad night yet. So
not yet. All right, let's bring him in. Hey, Anthony, how we doing, man?
Hello, Jason. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you are the... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I actually wanted to chime in real quick. I heard your Gettysburg trip. I haven't been yet, and that's like absolutely on my bucket list. Are you guys going around the time that Annabelle actually is supposed to be out there?
We're not. Yeah,
No?
We're going out for the week of 4th of July.
Okay. Oh, nice. That's still going to be super fun regardless.
Yeah, Annabelle's going to be there like the next weekend, and then the big Gettysburg Bash.
Yeah, that's right.
Paranormal convention is at the last weekend. So
nice.
One day we will get to see Annabelle, though. That would be that's kind of one of my bucket list things, is just to be able to go check out Annabelle.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of on everybody's list, given who the owners were and their history and everything that they've done and put in the paranormal field.
Yeah, and just the backstory behind the doll is
so
cool. So creepy if it's true.
Absolutely.
All right, so you are the founder of Xpedition Paranormal.
Yes.
What led to you founding your own group?
So originally, I had an experience when I was a teenager, so a long time ago. But I saw it was a pair of shadow figures on a property when I was watching my two nephews at the time, and it was just something, you see a big black mass, you don't really understand it, you think it's out of the corner of your eye, but regardless, you still really just don't understand it. And so I was like freaking out because the mask went up the stairs to my nephew's room when they were sleeping. And I was like, okay, obviously as an uncle, like I gotta check it out, I gotta protect the kids. And so I woke my brother up actually because of it, and I explained to him what happened. He just kind of sat on the couch next to me and laughed at me. I was like, well, what's so funny? He's like, you had a paranormal experience. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I didn't know, at the time, like, I don't even think Ghost Hunters or any of these shows like came out. So I honestly really didn't know like what it was. And he explained to me, what it was and how like our mom had a sixth sense about certain things too, and so that kind of started the whole thing, and that just kind of cemented my passion for it over the years. And I actually lived in California for 2 years, and in that time in California, I was on a team out there, really able to get my feet wet and learn about different techniques and just how people operate in the real world compared to what you see on TV. So it just that was kind of it. And the mentor I had was really awesome, and he helped me out a lot, and I learned a lot of things. And so eventually it came time I had to move back to Minnesota because my mom was sick. And then after she passed a couple years ago is when I came out to New Hampshire. But in between that time period, I had to run a team out of Minnesota for a couple years, branded under a different name called Paranormal Truth. And it was a bunch of coworkers. I was an assistant manager at Wendy's at that time. I had been at Wendy's for 11 years. And so it was a bunch of us at that time that, we're like, okay, we had a coworker that gave us our first case. It was the classic Ouija board kind of case, and she didn't really know how to handle it, and so we were going in as amateurs too. And it ended up being a heavy case, but for the most part, we got it taken care of. But it's something that we learned from, that we grow from, and then I was like, you know what? I have all this other knowledge and info, and the field is ever evolving. So I really want to cement a good foundation for a better paranormal team where I'm helping the community and going to commercial locations and whatever it may be. We tackle everything. And so it's not just, the paranormal, it's the cryptids, it's, your aliens and, everything that you can think of kind of in that bubble of the supernatural. So that's kind of how Expedition Paranormal came to be where it's at today.
Nice.
So,
Hmm.
what would you consider one of your more impactful cases that you've investigated?
Oh boy. Honestly, the case I do go back to is that first case that my coworker presented me with, because it's the same notion. It's the same thing that you hear a lot, that, when people are experiencing potential, we'll say supernatural distress, that other people don't believe them. And because I so openly talk about the supernatural and the paranormal, and I was talking about it at work because people were fascinated by it, she felt comfortable coming to me, and it was one of those cases where at the end of the day it affected everybody. I spent probably no, don't judge me for this. I spent probably about 2 weeks laying on the love seat by my mom downstairs because of like the paranoia and the feelings and just the heaviness that I felt after the case. Honestly, though, I feel that the tiger's eye that I had with me, that my friend gave to me, is actually what protected me from getting a big brunt compared to the rest of what my other team members got. But it's one of those cases that's so heavily cemented in my brain because I still feel bad to this day for how it affected the other people that were with me. They were my responsibility. And so I still am friends with them. Like, we talk about it every now and then. That, like, we don't harbor any ill will. But it was just kind of one of those crazy things where I should have known better before jumping into something that heavy for my first case. But I'm always one of those guys that just really wants to help out. And so
Yep.
that was my motivation, my drive. It's like, okay, I have some knowledge, I have some means to hopefully dispel whatever this is. I want to help you out, find resources or whatever. So it's that case that kind of remains the one, but that's the one we also learned the most from, and are better because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you think? You said it was brought about by, of course, using a Ouija board, right? So a
Hmm.
lot of them start. Um, what kind of spirit do you think it was? Just something,
It,
pissed off, or you think it was more demonic, or?
so I think so. There's actually, we ended up finding out there was two Ouija boards involved. We were able to dispel the first one appropriately, properly. The second one was actually owned by my coworker's friend, and she wasn't so willing to give up that second object. So it's still out there in the world somewhere, whether she uses it for all intents and purposes or not. I originally thought, probably what a lot of people would think, that it was demonic because initially that's how I was raised. I feel a lot of people are raised with that kind of notion, being cemented in like with Christianity because it is part of that ideology a little bit, that belief. But looking back on it and then having gone back for a follow up a couple times after that, I it was just a really pissed off spirit, and that's the theory is, if you are, excuse my language, an asshole in life, you're probably going to
You're
be
gonna
that
be
way in
one.
death.
Yep,
Right.
you know and so I
absolutely.
think a lot of the dark cases and demonic cases people experience are just that, are incredibly malevolent spirits that maybe do try to pass off, as something much more than what they are, just because they are assholes. And so yeah, and that land too, we had done research on the land, and a lot of Minnesota, much like everywhere else in the United States, there's Native American, like Indian burial mounds, and that kind of presence. And there happened to be in that area, in that city, Indian burial mounds. So I also think too that the land had a good chunk to do with the haunting. And we found a backstory. There was a father who wasn't so kind and ended up actually killing one of his children in the house. So there was a lot of elements that kind of went together hand in hand with the case.
Yeah, a
So
lot of energy there.
Well,
exactly.
quite the first experience.
Yeah, that's kind of, a hell of one to just jump into,
Right.
it's
Oh
your
yeah,
first one. It's
absolutely.
like, yeah,
I mean, I was used to, just going around to cemeteries. Like, I'm a cemetery junkie. I love finding historic cemeteries, whatever I can. That's like my relaxing version of investigating, pretty much, and going on doing that. So I had a lot of cemetery experience prior to that. But, again, it just circles back around that, I'm always wanting to help people out in some shape, form, or way. So kind of just
nice.
dived in head first without really knowing everything. And yeah, we should have done our research first and all the historical aspect, but I mean, it is what it is.
Oh yeah, you live and learn, and
Mhm.
sounds like you guys made it out of it all right. So
Oh yeah,
now you said you
absolutely.
came out of it with some anxiety
Mhm.
and some paranoia for you. What were
Yeah.
some of the symptoms or side effects that other people from the investigation were feeling?
So the other person on my team who I had known for a couple of years, she, well, incredibly sensitive person. So I think that kind of plays a part, that there's something to be said that energy can kind of be prone to following around, or making itself known around people that are extra sensitive. And so my other coworker, because we were all coworkers, uh, felt that they were absolutely being followed and attached to by this entity, whichever one it may have been, because we had gotten a Native American response on one of our devices, but we also left a Native offering to kind of appease that entity, and that seemed to calm down kind of like that portion of the investigation. And so I was like, if you're spiritual or if you're religious, let's go to a church, get a blessing from someone, do like a cleansing of any kind, pulling out all the stops so that, I don't want any more of my team members to suffer. Because I'm not particularly religious, even though I am an ordained minister. I honestly really did it for the fact of helping people that are in potential supernatural distress, because they have to otherwise go through so many hoops and ladders, and sometimes, in certain cases, it may be too late for them. And so that just never seemed fair to me. Let's get them as
So
help
what
as we quickly can.
so what services do you really provide that you weren't able to before becoming a minister?
Right. So before, I had really zero qualifications for any type of blessings in general. And so my ordination is all denominations, everything from even like paganism to Buddhism, Hinduism, Wiccan, so forth, so on, Christianity, everything. And B, at the fact, literally statistically, most of my clients are Christian. I was like, I'm not going to use, I'm a practicing Norse pagan, my own way. I'm an eclectic spiritualist. So I take a lot of things from different paths and kind of make it into my own. So I'm not going to use, my Norse pagan stuff to help someone that's Christian. So I need to learn about their ways, their beliefs, things that help them, because whatever they're experiencing is very real to them. So
Yep.
it's things like that. I had a mentor with that as well, strictly on the demonology part, because I am a demonologist. I've been through a few churches, classes, other certification. I actually have I want to say it's the year 1999, like exorcism book. No, I've not had to do one. And I'm grateful that I haven't, because
Yeah.
I do go through all the stops. Like I will get, healthcare coordinators, psychologists, psychiatrics, people
Good.
to come out and evaluate, clients. So obviously with their permission, of course, we make you sign paperwork and waivers and all that fun stuff. But just to make sure, for anything, that is truly on that side, of the world, if it's that dark or if it's just, medications or hallucinations or whatever it may be.
Right. Well, and if it's on the psychological side, doing an exorcism could very well make it worse for that person.
Yep, absolutely.
Kind of almost trigger that mental illness, right? Kind of give it a
Mhm.
justification in their brain.
Yeah.
Allow it to take hold. I've heard some stories about, how exorcisms can do more harm than good. And,
Mhm.
certain situations, you've got a paranoid schizophrenic that,
Yeah.
thinks they've got someone in the corner talking to them, and then you end up reinforcing that belief, right? And then
Yeah,
what threatens you?
exactly. And I feel that authenticity is very lacking in this field this day and age. And I think a lot of that honestly does have to do with like all the TV shows and the modern kind of whole thing, and everyone's on the demon bandwagon and this and this,
Yep.
like whatever. And so I get asked like, hey Anthony, why don't you post videos of your private residence cases? Well, number one, in that scenario, it's private. It's usually at that time the client says they don't want us to, so I'm not going to break that kind of thing. Like we always strive for authenticity in every way that we possibly can. So I get told, sometimes you have an underwhelming reaction to things that might be paranormal. I was like, well, I'm going to debunk stuff first. Before I even
Yep.
arrive
Absolutely.
to the conclusion, that it may be supernatural. And even then, just because I can't explain it or anyone on my team can't explain it doesn't mean that someone else can. So we always use the word plausible because
Yep.
that's what it is. It's plausible. You got muted out there.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, my soundboard's going a little wonky. Thanks. But yeah, it kind of comes back to, what you were saying is, especially with the TV shows, right? It's really easy to kind of get that interest in the paranormal now. And then
Hmm.
the barrier to entry is so low.
Yep.
Anymore. I mean, you just, you've got your cell phone, right? You've got a Galaxy or a iPhone, and
Hmm.
you download some apps, and away you go, right? And
Right.
there's no, obviously, no credentialing or certifications, right? And it's
Hmm.
kind of learn as you go, and people really have to, I guess, just trust who they have coming in to investigate. And
Yep.
you know an investigation in a home is a very, can be very vulnerable for people.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
I totally get not publishing videos on that. I mean, they're allowing you into their home to deal with something that, is possibly terrifying them and their family,
Hmm.
right? Why do they want that going on YouTube?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, it goes back to the fact that I have so much paperwork that I give, clients for those because there are people, not even necessarily like residences, but commercial locations, especially don't mind if you do like a YouTube show or whatever,
Yep.
do an episode, and we do have our Expedition Paranormal like YouTube show, which will be coming out later this year, early next year. We're going through between filming stuff right now just because we
Nice.
actually have a lot of uptake in the private residence cases. But there are some people like, hey, I don't care if you want to use this for educational purposes, so like we make them sign stuff because it covers our butts, it covers
Yep.
them, just to have all that to
Well, and
be
you
on the
want
safe
that
side.
trust there. Yeah.
Oh
You
yeah,
you don't want to be labeled as someone that, just publishes everything, whether,
right,
someone likes it or not.
exactly.
That'll just take your credibility.
Mhm.
And then, how is it out there in New Hampshire as far as like the saturation of investigators?
There is definitely saturation. So compared to being in Minnesota, which you can find people for sure in Minnesota, you just have to look, you have to network, and put in the effort. But out here, even like when we came over the threshold, so we landed in Boston and then drove like the 45 minutes to the area that we're in, Nashua, one of the biggest cities in New Hampshire, and uh, you can feel that energy change because the East Coast is so much older
Yes, it is.
than like the Midwest, and there's so much more history to it, and like there's a lot of locations, and there's definitely a lot more investigators. Now, the good thing about my experience with running into a lot of these other people, I was actually a lot of them want to collaborate, which is cool. I'm all fine and dandy and happy for that. I've been burned a few times by some other teams, and so I will put like little copyright things on like all my photos, audio, whatever that I send out there. And but I have since opened up again to teams that I feel like I can trust. There's a couple out there that I'm trying to collaborate with now for a couple later in the summer locations where these teams have been there 10, 15 times, and Expedition Paranormal has not. And so I'm always about sharing the spotlight and stuff with other teams.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, we've got an event coming up in August, I believe, where we've invited, a big handful of paranormal groups, that are within, like a 3 or 4 hour radius of us.
mhm,
Get together. It's going to be, I think, an 8 hour event. Um,
nice.
this 3-story building that we have access to. And yeah, just get people in, get them networking, get them talking, trading stories and techniques. And then,
Mhm.
hopefully get them, broken up into groups and yeah, start investigating together in different parts of the building. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That sounds a lot of fun, and that's why I like to network too. Is there's not really necessarily one right way to investigate. Everybody has their own techniques. Now, personally, I don't really like the provocation that some teams or people may do. I think that should be reserved for the truly, like hardcore, dark side of things,
Yep.
to be able to cleanse that case, or the people that you're dealing with when it comes to that kind of thing. So I mean, people still freak out if you ask, do you know that you're dead? You
Yeah. Yeah. Some people
okay,
don't like that. Yep.
but that's a different
But
level.
yeah, no, I mean, majority of the spirits, they were all human, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
how would you want to be talked to if someone came up and talked to you? Someone
right.
came up throwing their arms up, going, "Say something." It's like,
Right, exactly. And I
what do you
feel
want
like
me
a
to say,
lot of
dude?
people forget that, is
Yep.
that most spirits, which probably honestly outnumber the dead, number the living probably by a lot.
Oh,
But
absolutely. Yeah.
people totally, I think, forget sometimes the respect aspect,
Yep.
of that. Even with the, asshole entities that I was talking about earlier, I'm still going to be respectful. I'm going to, thank them, especially if they've manifested some kind of response, or whatever. So it's just kind of reminding, especially the younger, newer teams, like, hey, keep it human, because most of these spirits you're running into were human at one point.
Yep, exactly.
You know, have the mannerisms.
So yeah, so I mean, sorry, I lost it. So you seem to have a lot of passion for this, and just like any other person in the paranormal, it's always seems to be, oh, okay, I enjoy doing this. What can I completely saturate my life with? And you decided to write a book on top of managing this
Yes.
team and doing investigations. What led to you deciding to write a book?
Honestly, it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Like, obviously, I know there's thousands of books out there. Whatever. I'm not looking to be like an, A-list author or anything, but I felt like, I had enough information and knowledge at that time to put my 2 cents in. And, it goes back to the fact that I think people are so honed in on the TV shows that they're not really getting presented with maybe a realistic perspective of actually investigating. And so that's why I started to write tips from the other side. It's a short book. It's like 70 pages. I have it for really cheap on Amazon and eBack or an ebook and paperback. But it's more or less, kind of a how-to guide for people that just want to stick their toes in the water, kind of experience something, whether it's even starting to go on tours in some places with some people, or thinking about doing any type of a career in the supernatural field, whether it being an investigator, wanting to have a UFO unit or cryptid oriented team, or whatever it may be. So it's just really all of my knowledge and putting it onto words, kind of giving a lot of different perspectives, and there's some technical stuff in there. Like, I have a chapter on hauntings, and we go through the intellectual hauntings, the poltergeist hauntings, residual hauntings, so forth and so on. So there's technical terms in there, things that people will need to know. What is an EVP? Certain devices that might work for the beginner, which you really don't need much. I mean, it goes back to if you have your phone, can be a good starting point if you don't want to throw a lot of money down. I tend to steer away a little bit from the apps, just because I haven't had a lot of credibility or reliability with them. There has been one, which is the Spirit Talker, which I've been able to match up a few times with my Ovilus, but I haven't really given the run for the money for that yet. So that'll happen probably one of our next big commercial locations. But yeah, it's just, getting people to really know kind of what's going on out there, what's real, what's not, things that I feel that should be done as an investigator, like a preliminary investigation, do preliminary readings, do your EMF readings, things that you'll do before your actual investigation, so that it makes it more authentic. Take like temperature readings and such, and find, electronics or things that may go off. Find out if the AC or heat's coming on at certain times of the night. I mean, I've even gone as far as finding out, times of trains coming through on some locations, because there's a couple theories behind that. One, it can be noisy as heck in the background, but two, a train gives off a lot of energy, and
Hmm.
so that will that enhance activity or manifest responses, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I dive in a lot of that stuff in the book about that. Just here's a little bit of a guide. You follow it if you want to. You don't have to. Do your research. you know, always network and talk to other people. Get all the different perspectives so you can formulate your own opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I think those types of books are great because, like we were talking about, the barrier to entry is pretty much zero.
Hmm.
You can watch a TV show, and then you think you've learned the techniques, and then you
Right.
go out, and then that leads into the people that may be disrespectful because
Right.
it's easy to depersonalize, right? When you're talking to an empty room in the dark,
Hmm.
it can be really easy to forget that you're talking to someone or something that used to be human.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I think that's where some of this, disrespect and antagonizing comes in. Is
Hmm.
just, yeah, it's real easy to, kind of get sidetracked or,
I mean,
You know,
yeah, I think too, it's like a boredom tactic, in a manner of speaking, because people will be like in an empty room, in a dark, empty room by themselves, and they're really not sure how to interact or like what questions to ask. And I have a chapter on that too. Like, here's some basic questions you can ask, if you're doing like an EVP session or if you want to do an introduction to whatever potential entity that's there. And I think people just get bored sometimes and don't have the patience, and so they start, to kind of act out a little bit, and
Mhm.
you
yeah.
know, they
Yeah,
I
lose
that's
always
some.
laugh
touch.
too because I kind of think that, okay, has it been quiet long enough that, you kind of got the chicken of the group that's like, oh, okay, well, nothing's happened. And I can say, oh, yeah, you ain't got nothing on me, man. You're not going to scare me because nothing's going on. And then something happens and they
Right.
take off. But
Exactly. Which is the other thing, the other thing I try to educate people on a lot is your investigations, not every single investigation are you going to have evidence. You're going to have dud of investigations. And we did. When I was on the team in California for that time, we went to up north in California to a place called Moke Hill, because I can't ever pronounce the whole actual name of that city. It's like some native name, and I would butcher it. But it was to the Hotel Leger, which actually, even though I'm not a fan of Ghost Adventures, they did an episode there. People are really nice. The management's really nice. They were closed a couple days a week, so we took an opportunity, and it was quiet. You could hear like a pin drop, like nothing happened. But after we started to review the evidence, there was all kinds of stuff in the background. And so you have those moments where some of those investigations are going to be duds, and it happens. There's no on or off switch for the spirits. If they want to make themselves known, they will. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah, that's the one thing. We do some events, and that's the one thing that I try to let everyone know at the beginning is like, hey, the spirits are going to do what they're going to do. We
Mm.
can't make them do anything. And what you see on TV, that 43 minutes is over, 3 to 5 days.
Oh yeah,
We're
absolutely.
spending 6 hours in here, and we're going to hope that we get one thing.
Right, exactly.
Yep. Yep. So,
I'd like
Anthony, you
to,
did mention to us before the show that you were in the works of a second book as well. Can
Yes.
you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the second book I'm working on is called Mysteries of the Wild, North American Cryptids. Specifically, I feel that cryptids don't get a lot of love as much as they deserve. They are a fascinating complexity of a pseudoscience that is out there. Everyone has like their scary stories, their campfire tales, whatever it may be, a scene, creatures in the woods, or even in the water, depending. And so I decided, instead of tackling the whole entire world, that I would start with the United States and just kind of go in order of the states. List mostly some of the cryptids that you don't hear about, as opposed to your typical Sasquatch, Wendigo, so forth. So it's a little bit of a tedious project trying to find information, going from my own experiences as well, talking to a lot of people, because there aren't so many cryptid groups out there. I mean, you can find them, but you have to dig a little bit, to try to get
yeah, Above
the
Top Secret,
information.
that site Above Top Secret, they had a great cryptozoology section.
Mm.
And that site just went down like a few months ago and just never
Oh,
came back
jeez.
up. I was really bummed by it. Yeah, that was kind of one of my, middle of the night. Okay, let's find 3 or 4 rabbit holes to dive down because I can't
Right.
sleep. Right.
Exactly. And too often, too, as well, the UFOs will get roped into the cryptids, which is fine. And there's nothing wrong with that, because depending on your belief of UFOs, extraterrestrials, that can totally fall into the category of cryptids. But Android just released the Enigma app, where it's all people that are having all kinds of experiences with drones or UFOs or something unusual. They'll go and post, and that's actually kind of fascinating to kind of zoom in on the map and see if your local area has a bunch of reported sightings.
I wish I was set up to screen share my phone right now because yeah, that Enigma app is
Mm,
absolutely amazing.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shows
I'm
you
not
it even
surprised me that you have it.
flashes. What's that?
That does not surprise me that you have it.
Yeah, of course I've got it. But yeah, I mean, you can go to a location and it'll have like a flashing bubble if there's new
Yep,
reports.
exactly.
And
I
they
always put
drop on
notifications
numerous
on
sources. Yeah. Yep.
because that's like my rabbit hole that I like to go down when it's not, like watching podcast or YouTube, Mr. Ball on YouTube episodes.
Oh yeah. Yep. Mr.
um,
Ballin.
but yeah, that's one of my rabbit holes. I've been fascinated by that too. Though, to truth be told, UFOs are, I feel, much harder to investigate than
Absolutely. Yeah.
anything cryptid wise or paranormal. But I've always had a fascination with space in general, which has kind of like led to that. With so many stars and galaxies and planets out there,
Yep.
you gotta think maybe there's something out there.
Right.
did you ever go down and do any research on the when that the New Jersey UFOs were going on?
So I heard about it, and so one of the TV shows that I actually follow, because I'm biased because they're from Minnesota, which I think is great, is Project Fear, and they did a whole segment
They
on
did.
the
Yep.
New Jersey like drones and all that, and so I was like, oh dang, like we're so close, in the area. And that's when I started,
Yep.
trying to look on the Enigma app and all that and looking. Actually, Nashua has quite a few reported sightings for unusual things. Mostly from what I get, it looks like drones, so not entirely unusual, but still something. I eventually want to have like a UFO unit, just to kind of go out there, take some telescopes and look at a flight radar tracker map, figure out, anything that's going on, out in the skies and see if it's something different.
Yeah, I've thought about setting up an all sky camera. And then they've got that software. I can't remember the name of it, but it's this camera setup, and basically, it shoots a 360 of the sky, right? Like an all sky
Hmm.
camera.
Right.
But it's got a database of different light patterns, and it uses AI to, scan, and when it sees, certain movement by lights, it'll actually tell you, oh, well, that actually looks like it's a 747, right? Because
Right.
it'll do the measurements, or oh, that's a satellite, and if you have it hooked to internet data, it'll tell you the satellite was, due to come by, or the famous SpaceX stuff, right?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
which God,
Yeah, I
those are
mean,
all over now. Of oh, I just
oh
saw
yeah.
14 UFOs, and it's like no, sorry,
Right.
that's Starlink.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of stuff that, if you want your credibility and authenticity to kind of go up, and, you got to focus on, the realistic possibilities that probably, we'll say 9 times out of 10, that it's going to be a satellite or a drone or,
Yep, it's a
even
drone.
debris falling,
Yep, yep.
So
Well,
Anthony, as
and
you
I
yeah,
didn't
go
realize
ahead.
how far away you could be and see the remnants of these spacecraft launches.
Hmm.
In these booster rockets that they cause that spiral pattern, and people are seeing
Yep.
them from 1,000 miles away from the launch site.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
absolutely crazy.
yeah, and it would be nuts to go out. We're up here in Wyoming, and
Hmm.
it'd be nuts to go outside and see that. Because we don't have any nearby spacecraft launching
Right.
facility, right, or
Mhm.
rocket launch facilities. So yeah, I could see where that could throw people off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
As you write this second book about North American cryptids, have you found that you have a favorite?
So because of course it would be me. My favorite, for whatever reason, because I don't know the reason why this cryptid is my favorite, has always been the Wendigo. It could just be the backwoods, northern Minnesota kind of area that I grew up in, because I grew up in the woods. I had woods from my backyard as a kid, playing outside, all that good stuff that kids used to do and don't really do these days.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I for some reason I'm just fascinated with the Wendigo above it. I mean, they're all fascinating. It's still great to see photos of, or potential photos of, the Loch Ness monster, or people throwing Sasquatch videos up and around on the internet. But I just, probably with my morbid sense of humor, the Wendigo kind of fits, just because they are considered to be such a bad omen. But there has actually been a couple recent sightings back in Minnesota, up in the northern part of the state, where people are saying that they potentially have seen the Wendigo. And so my fiance and I are planning to go back to Minnesota here probably really soon. And so I have it on the list to have a kind of like a cryptid expedition to kind of go check it out and interview people and kind of see what becomes all that. Kind of like much like how Josh Gates does it on his shows, and
Nice.
when he had
Nice.
Destination Truth and such.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of mine. I am going to get up to Wisconsin and go to Bray Road. I've
Oh
got to go
yes.
spend a weekend investigating out the Beast of
Mhm.
Bray Road. That's one of my favorites. And then you're actually close to my number one favorite though, which is a lake monster, which is the Lake Champlain Nessie, or sorry,
Mhm.
Champ Nessie Champ.
Yep. That is true. It also out here too. We have, of course, the Appalachian Mountains. So you have the Appalachian Trails and all the spooky history behind that, and the feral people, and everything that kind of falls in that category. Plus, in New Jersey, there is if I can think of it, the Pine Barrens. So
Yep.
a campground that apparently has a lot of terrifying stuff to it as well. As far as actually a lot of mob history, apparently,
Yep.
mobsters back in the day just kind of chucking people out there for shits and giggles. They did
Yep.
something wrong. So there's a lot of stuff we still have yet to explore over here, which I think is so great. It goes back to saying, the East Coast is so much older than like Minnesota is. So like I can find stuff in Minnesota, but I really got to look for it. Where here,
Yep.
everything just kind of pops up. We have even like the Lizzie Borden house, in Mass, not far away, and New Jersey and Penn State Penitentiary, all these other places. So
Yeah, we've talked about that quite a bit on the show with the coast being so much older than, Minnesota, but then we're even further out here in Wyoming.
mhm,
Um, with like all the sanatoriums and all the hospitals
right.
and all the big prisons and stuff that are now empty back east compared to us trying to find, a brothel or an old saloon or
Mhm,
anything. We don't have those big facilities like that out here.
Yep.
right.
So,
Yeah.
you said you're hoping to make that a 3-book series.
Yes.
And people can find your first one again where?
On Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, so that I pretty much set everything up so that anyone actually worldwide can go get that book from their Amazon market on there. Again, as I was telling Jason earlier, I'm not looking to be, a famous author or anything like that. Just putting my 2 cents into the world. So my book is actually really cheap. My cousin actually was the first one to buy it, and she was all excited. And she's like, "I want your autograph." So
Nice. Yeah,
I
that's
was
all
like, "Why
right
not?"
though.
But I mean, I do plan to have get some like author copies. See if I can book out like one of our local libraries and do like a reading, or just have people come and buy it if they want to, and something like that. But it's not high up on my bucket list right now.
Right. Right. Anything that you would like to let everyone know that's watching? Anything that we haven't covered that you'd like them to know?
So I actually just posted something new, a little bit of a hint on our Facebook page. It was a little bit of the XP logo in the background, kind of with a haunted background, and I covered up some wording on it. It'll be a second thing that I've done because I did this when my team was rebranded under Spectre Paranormal. But it is, I can officially say now that I am releasing a paranormal rock album. So it's going to be songs all geared toward, the supernatural and paranormal. There's going to be the Xpedition Paranormal theme song on there, created by a bunch of people that I've known, gotten to talk to with that, which is great because when I go to like conventions and I have a booth and I give, a talk or whatever, I like to have a little bit of the background music. So it was just some fun little project, but that's going to be available on Spotify soon.
Oh, very
Nice.
cool. All right, let us
Yeah.
know when that comes out, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll post it on the page.
Quite
absolutely.
the all around, can't find the word. but well-rounded person there. Music and Arthur and
It just never
demonologist and
stops. You know, when you have such a passion, you know, as I do when it comes to this kind of field, every day you're learning. My whole library is full of all kinds of books. You know, between elementals and fairies, to I just finished actually reading Ed and Lorraine Warren's demonologist book about one of their cases. You know, there's so much to constantly learn, and that's what I think is one of the greatest feats of the field. You know, is the learning curve, and that there is really no right or wrong way to do stuff. There's really, you know, there's more than one answer. You know, I don't think we'll ever truly know. I think that the paranormal will always be kind of like a pseudoscience in a manner of speaking. But it's a good field to be in for sure.
yeah, you know, something where there's no experts and we do get to learn stuff every day, it seems.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yep. Any questions for us?
No, I think we got everything covered. And when did you guys say you were coming out here for Gettysburg?
We're heading out that way next week, so we'll be out there starting Tuesday.
Right. So we'll have to definitely try at some point in the future to collaborate, like some event of some kind. Whether you know, we plan to come out to the West Coast here eventually in the next like year or so. So we should absolutely stay in touch and figure something out. I'd love to work with you guys. You guys seem really freaking cool. So
Yeah,
No,
likewise, man. It'd be great to collab on something.
yeah, Jason does like to usually offer up, you know, everyone we've talked to, we definitely want to, we've talked about this for weeks where it's like we need to take like a month or two off of work and make this big road trip, because
Yep.
most of our guests have been from the West Coast or down
Right.
south, and it's like we just need to go investigate with everybody.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you know, you ever make it out this way, we always have somewhere that we can get into.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely. It sounds like a plan.
Well, Anthony, it's been great having you on tonight. We will again show your Facebook page and that link. You can go get his book at Amazon. And any questions, Jason, for him?
No, appreciate your time tonight, Anthony. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're going to push
Yeah.
you into the green room and we'll catch up with you in a minute.
All right, sounds good.
Oh, another great interview with another great
so
person.
accomplished, man. I love meeting these people that are just go, you know, and always trying to do something to contribute to the field, which is just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we always talk like what are we going to do with our copious amounts of free time, right? It seems like that's what we were talking about when you had to step away for a moment, was that, you know, it seems like these investigators that are passionate about what they do, it's like we always find one more thing.
One more thing. We never
to
have free
squeeze in.
time, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, throwing that album in at the last, you know, right at the last,
Yeah.
announcing his paranormal album, like that takes up quite a bit of time. You
That
know?
takes up time. That's not just something you can throw together.
Right. So another great night, another great guest. Next week we will try to come to you probably live on the Unraveling page or on the WoW page. We will not have a show like this. Who knows? We could be in a battlefield.
Yep. I think, we'll do a live, but yeah, just with flying out there, it'd be not quite set up yet to bring all our podcasting gear with us. So,
right. So watch at least the WoW page, and we'll do lives throughout our trip. We're going to hit some really cool places. We're going down to DC one day. I have always wanted to see Ford's Theater, and I think everyone else has too. So we're hitting Ford's Theater and Arlington National Cemetery. So yeah, we will have some great places that we'll be coming to you from.
all right. Well, yeah, stay tuned next week and we'll be sure to go live so you guys can see what we're doing out there.
Everyone have a good night. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Unraveling the Darkness would like to thank Horn Paranormal Research and Twinkle Twinkle Little Store for sponsoring our show. If you're craving more paranormal content, don't forget to check out our YouTube and Facebook channels at Way Out West Paranormal and Unraveling the Darkness. You can catch all of our episodes of Unraveling the Darkness on Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe as it helps others find the show and join in on the paranormal fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep your lights on, stay safe, and remember, the truth is out there, and it might just be closer than you think.